My name is Aria Lane, and I'm 28 years old. If you asked anyone who knows me, they'd probably say I'm the calm one. The friend who never raises her voice. The girlfriend who listens instead of accuses. The kind of woman who believes that love doesn't have to be loud to be real. For the longest time, I believed trust was the most romantic thing you could give someone. But the night Colin's phone lit up on our coffee table, I learned that trust can also be the sharpest knife. It was a Tuesday. Rain tapped on the windows, soft and rhythmic, like a heartbeat trying to warn me. Colin was in the shower, humming off key steam, drifting from the half-closed bathroom door. I was scrolling through emails when his phone buzzed. Normally, I ignore it, but that night the screen lit up just long enough for me to read the preview. Still can't stop thinking about last weekend, Lena. Just 7 words. 7 words that hollowed out everything I thought I knew about him. My hands didn't shake, my heart didn't explode. It just went quiet. That's how I knew. I placed the phone back on the table, exactly where it was like evidence at a crime scene, and waited. The shower cut off. The bathroom door opened with a puff of warm mist, and Colin walked out wrapped in a towel, hair dripping. He was humming that same tune, the one he always sang when he felt comfortable when life was easy. He didn't even glance at me. He reached for his phone. His fingers hesitated for half a second, almost too quick to notice. Then he picked it up, unlocked it, and smiled like nothing had happened. "Hey," he said casually. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, watching the faint twitch at the corner of his mouth. "Just tired." He smirked. "You're always tired lately." There it was, the first deflection. I didn't answer. I just studied him. The small muscles in his jaw, the way his eyes kept flicking down to his screen. He was texting back. "Still can't stop thinking about last weekend." I couldn't unsee it. Finally, I asked as calmly as I could. "Who's Lena?" He froze for a heartbeat, then forced a laugh. "Lena. She's from work. Why?" "Just wondering," I said. He rolled his eyes like I'd just accused him of murder. "God, Aria, please don't get weird about this. She's a coworker. We're working on the new account together. That's it." I nodded. "Right. Just a coworker who can't stop thinking about you." That wiped the smile off his face. "You read my messages?" "No," I said quietly. "Just the preview." He scoffed. "So you're snooping now." "I didn't touch your phone." "You looked at it," he snapped. "Do you even hear yourself right now?" "You're obsessed with control sometimes, Aria." Control. That word landed like a slap ironic coming from a man who'd once told me I was too trusting. I didn't argue. I didn't need to. That was the thing about Colin. He didn't want honesty. He wanted resistance, a fight, a reason to feel desired through chaos. He threw the towel onto the couch and paced. "You know what your problem is," he said, voice rising. "You never fight for anything, not even me." I blinked. "What?" He gestured at me, frustrated. "Sit there, calm, cold, like none of this matters." "Because screaming doesn't make it matter more," I said softly. He laughed sharp and ugly. "No, it just makes you boring." Something inside me cracked then, but not the way he expected. It wasn't anger, it was clarity. He wanted me to explode, to beg to cry, but instead I just stared at him, not saying a word. That silence, my silence, made him furious. "You know what," he spat. "Maybe I need someone who actually cares enough to get jealous." He grabbed his keys from the counter. "Maybe you do," I said. He stopped at the door, waiting for me to plead to stop him to fight. I stayed seated. "You're really not going to say anything. There's nothing left to say." He stared at me, disbelief clouding his features. "You're impossible." Then the door slammed. The sound echoed through the apartment, sharp and final, like a gavel ending a trial. For a long moment, I just sat there, listening to the rain against the windows. The apartment smelled faintly of his cologne cedar and arrogance. In the reflection of the dark glass, I saw myself small still, but not broken, just quiet. And for the first time in years, that quiet didn't feel like weakness. It felt like the beginning of something. Something I couldn't name yet. But it started that night with 7 words and a phone screen that told me everything I needed to know. When Colin left that night, I expected the silence to crush me. Instead, it felt clean, like a wound finally being washed, even if it stung. For the first few days, my body still moved out of habit. 2 coffee mugs in the morning, 2 plates on the counter, the quiet hum of waiting for footsteps that never came. But after a week, I stopped setting out his mug. The apartment became mine again, though it took a while to feel that way. At first, every corner carried an echo of him, the way he whistled, while cooking, the faint scent of his aftershave clinging to the towels, the dent in the pillow on his side of the bed. I didn't delete his number, I didn't block him, I just didn't reach out. Not because I was playing some game, but because for once I didn't have the energy to chase someone who wanted to be caught by someone else. 3 days later, I saw the proof I already knew existed. A photo Colin and Lena at some rooftop bar, her arm looped through his. His smile looked rehearsed. Hers didn't. The caption read, "Grateful for people who truly see me." A perfect little dig meant for me to find. I didn't comment. I didn't even finish reading. I just closed the app and deleted it. People like Colin feed on reactions, and I was done feeding him. The nights were hardest, though, not because I missed him, but because the quiet made me face the truth. I had built a life around being easy to love, too calm, too patient, too understanding. All of the things that make someone safe until the wrong person mistakes it for emptiness. I started running again, 5 a.m., before the city woke up. The streets were empty, the air cold enough to burn my lungs, but with every step something heavy fell away. The need to explain, the need to be chosen, the need to be enough. I remember stopping at a crosswalk one morning and realizing I wasn't angry anymore, just tired of being the woman men needed to hurt before realizing what they had. So I made a decision: no more explanations, no more fixing people who broke themselves. A month passed. My friends started asking questions. "Have you heard from him?" Jess asked one night over wine. I shook my head. No. "Would you want to?" I thought about it for a long moment, tracing the rim of my glass with one finger. Maybe if it were an apology, but not if it's another excuse disguised as one. Jess smiled sadly. "You're stronger than I'd be." "Not stronger," I said, just finally done. The text started on a Thursday night. "Colin, can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a long time, the same blue light that once burned me now, just dull. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. Every version of a reply flashed through my mind. Talk about what? Now you want to talk. Go to hell. Instead, I just pressed delete. The message disappeared, and with it, something else inside me, something that used to ache. He texted again 2 days later. "Colin, I know you're seeing this." Delete. Then a third time. "Colin, please, Aria." Delete. Each time I erased him, the silence afterward grew softer, not lonely, peaceful. Work got busier. Without his moods dictating my days, I had space to think again. I stayed late at the office, took on projects I used to avoid because Colin would complain I never had time for him. Funny how much time you have when no one's draining your energy, pretending to be the victim. My boss noticed. "Whatever's changed in your life," she said one morning, "keep it. You're glowing." I smiled. Just sleeping better, I guess. But it wasn't sleep, it was freedom. On the 1 month mark, I stood in front of the mirror and really looked at myself. Not the tired reflection that used to scan for flaws before walking into a room with him, but the woman who had survived the quiet without needing to fill it. I cut my hair that afternoon. Nothing dramatic, just enough to remind myself that change doesn't have to ask permission. When the hairdresser spun me toward the mirror, I saw it instantly. The old Aria was gone. Somewhere between deleting his texts and learning to breathe again, I'd stopped waiting for closure, because closure isn't something someone gives you. It's what you decide to take when they have nothing left to offer. That night, as rain whispered against the glass again, the same sound as the night it all ended, my phone buzzed once more. Unknown number. Still can't stop thinking about you. No name, but I didn't need one. For a brief moment, my pulse jumped. Then it slowed. I turned off the phone, set it face down, and whispered into the quiet, "You should have thought of that before." The storm outside passed within minutes. The one inside me had already ended. 3 months. That's how long it took for the quiet to feel like peace instead of punishment. By then, my mornings had rhythm again. Coffee, gym, work, dinner for one, eaten from the same white bowl I used to share with him. Some nights I still caught myself turning toward the empty side of the bed, but not out of longing, just habit. The truth is, healing doesn't feel like a movie montage. It's not all candles, face masks, and self-empowerment playlists. It's more like standing in the wreckage of something that used to matter and realizing you're finally ready to sweep it away. When I ran into Jess at the farmer's market, she looked at me like she was seeing a ghost. "Wow," she said, her eyes scanning me, head to toe. "You look good. Like scary good." I laughed. "That's oddly specific." She grinned. "No, I mean it. The haircut, the posture, the confidence, whatever you're doing, it's working." "Maybe I just stopped apologizing for existing," I said, half joking. Jess's smile faltered a little. "You haven't heard, have you?" I blinked. "Heard what?" "About Colin and Lena." I felt a twinge in my stomach, small, distant, like a ghost of an old wound. "No," I said, "and I don't think I need to." Jess hesitated. "You should probably hear this anyway." She told me everything. That Lena caught Colin still messaging other women. That he'd used the same excuses on her that he once used on me. "You're imagining things. You're too sensitive. You're making me feel trapped. That she'd finally walked out humiliated after he told her she was boring too. For a moment, I felt a pang, not sympathy exactly, but recognition. Different woman, same script. Jess studied me carefully. You're not happy about it. I shook my head. No, just confirmed. Confirmed. That it was never me who wasn't enough, I said quietly. It was him who was never satisfied. That night, I stayed late at work. The office was dark except for the glow of my monitor and the rain streaking down the windows. Colin's voice echoed faintly in my head, his accusations, his laughter, his chaos, but it no longer made my chest tighten. Instead, I felt something close to gratitude. If he hadn't broken me, I never would have rebuilt myself this way. Around 10 p.m., my phone buzzed on the desk. No name, just a number I hadn't seen in months. Hey, 3 letters. That was all. I stared at them for a while, the blue bubble like a bruise on the screen. Then another message. Can we talk? I miss you. I exhaled slowly, leaning back in my chair. For a moment, I thought of replying not to reconcile, but to finally say what I never did. To tell him that love isn't a stage where one person performs and the other applauds. That I wasn't emotionless, I was exhausted. But I didn't. Because the version of me who needed to explain herself no longer existed. So I locked my phone, shut down my computer, and walked out into the rain without an umbrella. The next morning, my coworker, Lena, different. Lena ironically brought coffee to my desk. You seem lighter lately, she said, like you're not carrying something anymore. I smiled. That's because I finally dropped it. Colin tried again 2 days later. Please, Arya, I just want to hear your voice. Then, I know I messed up. I was stupid. Then, I'm not the same person anymore. But I was. Still calm, still patient, still quiet. Only now that quiet was strength, not surrender. I let the phone buzz until it stopped. Because healing doesn't always announce itself with fireworks, it often shows up as indifference. And indifference, I realized, is the most peaceful kind of revenge. A week later, Lena from the gym, one of Colin's old college friends, waved at me between treadmills. Arya Lane. Wow, you look incredible, she said. I laughed politely. Thanks. Long time. She lowered her voice. So you heard about Colin, right? I shook my head, pretending to adjust my earbuds. He got fired, she said. Apparently he tried flirting with a client's wife. Total disaster. I raised my eyebrows. Wow. Lena smirked. He's been kind of spiraling. Word is he's been talking about you a lot, saying he wishes he'd treated you better. I took a sip from my water bottle, the coolness grounding me. Well, I said softly, maybe he finally learned what respect looks like by losing it. That night, I opened my journal for the first time since everything happened. I wrote one line, when someone shows you who they are, stop editing the version you want to believe. Then I closed it, turned off the light, and slept better than I had in years. 3 months after the breakup, Colin had fallen apart. And me, I wasn't thriving in the flashy way people post about online. I was just quietly, steadily becoming someone who didn't need to be chosen to feel whole. The peace that used to scare me now felt sacred. But peace has a way of being tested, especially by those who once thrived on chaos. And I didn't know it yet, but the storm wasn't entirely over. It was just circling back in the middle of the night, 3 knocks away. After Colin's mother drove off the headlights, cut through the rain, and disappeared at the corner. Silence fell again, but it was a different kind of silence, this time, weighted, final. I leaned against the door, exhaling slowly, the air thick with everything that had just been said and everything I had refused to say. For years, I'd thought strength meant endurance, holding the line, keeping the peace, forgiving endlessly. But tonight, I learned that sometimes strength is simply not opening the door a second time. At dawn, I found myself driving through the city aimlessly. The streets were slick and quiet, neon lights blurring through the rain-streaked windshield. Colin's words looped in my head like an echo I couldn't switch off. You were supposed to fight for me. I whispered to no one I already did. I fought for him every day, for his peace, his comfort, his pride, until I realized the battle was one-sided. I stopped at an all-night diner, ordered black coffee, and sat by the window. Across from me, a couple laughed over pancakes, oblivious to the world. For the first time, I didn't envy that kind of love. I pitied it because I knew how fragile it could be when one person mistakes devotion for weakness. The waitress refilled my cup and said softly, "Rough night." I smiled faintly. No, just the last one of its kind. When I got home, Dawn was breaking, pale and tired. My phone buzzed again, one more message from Colin before I blocked him for good. You'll regret letting me go. I stared at it for a long time before replying. No, Colin, I regret staying as long as I did. Then I hit block, turned off the phone, and left it face down on the counter. That's when I noticed the faint crack in the picture frame above my bookshelf. It was from the night months ago when he slammed the door during one of our arguments. Back then, I'd meant to fix it, to glue the edge, to make it perfect again. But looking at it now, I smiled, because maybe not everything broken needs to be repaired. Some things should stay cracked to remind you how far you've come. That evening, a small envelope appeared in my mailbox. No name, no return address. Inside was a photo, one of me and Colin from 2 years ago. We were smiling sunlit, holding hands at a festival. On the back, written in his slanted handwriting, "You'll always be the one I ruined myself for." My hands didn't shake this time. I folded the photo once, then again, and dropped it into the trash. Some people romanticize their destruction, but I wasn't going to be someone's tragedy anymore. That night, rain returned soft at first, then heavy, almost theatrical. As I stood by the window, I realized something. This was the same kind of night it had all started. Same sound, same glass, same quiet. Only this time I wasn't waiting for anyone to come home. I brewed tea, curled on the couch, and let the storm play its music outside. It didn't feel lonely. It felt earned. Tomorrow I'd wake up, make coffee, maybe buy flowers for myself. Small rituals of reclaiming life. But for now, I just watched the lightning flicker and whispered the simplest truth I'd learned since Colin left. Peace doesn't beg to be loved back. And with that, I turned off the light. The text came a week later. "You win. Happy now." No greeting, no apology, just those 4 words dripping with resentment disguised as pain. I stared at it over my morning coffee. Outside sunlight spilled across the counter, catching in the steam. It was too beautiful a morning to let him drag me backward. So I smiled, set the mug down, and hit delete. No reply, no closure, just calm. A month later, I stopped checking my phone for ghosts. Work was going well. My apartment finally felt like mine, and the mirror no longer reflected someone waiting to be chosen. Then one afternoon, fate decided to play its favorite game, irony. I was standing in line at my favorite cafe flipping through a book when a familiar voice behind me said my name. Aria. I turned. There he was, Colin. But not the Colin I remembered. This one looked smaller, faded. His eyes were tired, his shirt wrinkled, the sharpness that used to intimidate me, replaced by something hollow. For a moment, we just stared. The whole world seemed to pause, steam from the espresso machine rising between us like a veil. "You look," he hesitated, "different." "I am," I said. He gave a half laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. "Guess you heard about me and Lena." "I did." "Yeah," he said quietly. "It didn't last." I nodded, keeping my tone polite. "Some things aren't meant to." He looked at me, then, not the way a lover looks, but like someone studying the person they used to blame for their reflection. "So you're really over it," he said, like the idea was impossible. I shrugged. There wasn't anything left to be under. He flinched a little. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then the barista called my name. "Aria, 2 lattes." Before I could step forward, Claire appeared beside me. Soft brown curls, gentle smile, eyes that carried no judgment, no chaos, just warmth. She handed me my cup. "Hey, sorry they got my name wrong again." "It's fine," I said, smiling at her. Colin's gaze flicked between us, confusion dawning. "So, this is why you moved on so fast." I turned to him, tone calm, almost tender. "No, this is why I stayed gone." Claire glanced at him briefly, then back at me, sensing the history without needing details. She slipped her hand into mine, grounding me. Colin's voice cracked slightly. "You replaced me just like that." I shook my head. "I didn't replace you, Colin. I just stopped pretending you were irreplaceable." Something in his face collapsed. The pride, the anger, it all fell away until only regret remained. He took a step forward, voice barely above a whisper. "You think she's better than me?" I met his eyes. "I don't think about you at all." He inhaled sharply like he'd been punched. Then he looked down, nodding slowly. "Right. Guess that's my answer." "Take care of yourself," I said softly. And I meant it. As Claire and I walked toward the door, the air shifted, the kind of shift that happens when a chapter truly ends. Behind us, I heard him whisper almost to himself, "You were supposed to be the one who never gave up on me." I didn't turn around. Because he was right. I was that person, once the one who stayed, forgave, endured. But that version of me no longer existed. Outside, sunlight broke through the clouds, catching the raindrops still clinging to the awning. Claire squeezed my hand and smiled. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, taking a deep breath. "Better than okay." We crossed the street together, the city buzzing around us, the sound of life louder than any memory. For the first time in years, I wasn't surviving someone else's storm. I was walking in my own light. And the peace that followed wasn't dramatic or loud or cinematic. It was quiet, simple, final. Exactly how it was always meant to be. 6 months later, I woke up before my alarm. No rush, no panic, no heart racing at the thought of a text that might ruin my day. Just sunlight gold and soft, spilling through the curtains, warming the sheets. It took me a moment to realize that this calm, this ordinary peace, was what I used to dream about. Back when I was still trying to fix someone who didn't want to be healed. I brewed coffee, opened the balcony door, and stepped outside. The city was alive beneath me. Horns, laughter, wind, like the world had never stopped spinning. And maybe it never did. Maybe I was just still for too long. Claire came out a few minutes later, hair messy from sleep, holding her own mug. She leaned against the railing beside me. "You're up early," she murmured. "Couldn't sleep," I said, smiling, but not in a bad way. She nodded, understanding instantly, because that's what peace feels like. Someone who doesn't need your chaos to feel alive. We stood there quietly sipping coffee, watching the light creep over the rooftops. No fireworks, no dramatic music. Just two people who didn't need to prove anything. After she left for work, I opened my journal, the one I'd started the week after Colin moved out. The last page still had an unfinished sentence. "I hope one day I understand why I wasn't enough." I stared at it for a long moment, then drew a line through it. Below it I wrote, "I was always enough, just not for someone who wanted to stay empty." Then I closed the book not with anger, but with peace. Around noon, I walked past the cafe where everything had ended. The window where Colin had stood was empty now. A new couple sat there laughing over pastries. For a split second, I wondered if he ever thought about me. If he still told stories where he was the victim and I was the heartless one. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Either way, it didn't matter. Because some stories aren't meant to be rewritten, they're meant to be finished. That evening, I posted a photo for the first time in almost a year. No captions about healing or strength. Just me, smiling hair, caught in the wind, sunset at my back. The caption read, "Some endings save you." I didn't post it for him. I posted it for the woman who sat alone in the dark months ago, thinking silence meant defeat. She deserved to know it was actually the beginning. As the sky turned lavender and the city lights flickered on, I whispered something to myself. Not as a promise, but as a reminder. I don't need a storm to feel alive anymore. And with that, I turned off my phone, closed the curtains, and let the night hold me quietly. The same calm that once felt unbearable now felt like home. Because peace, I learned, isn't what happens when everything stops hurting. It's what happens when you finally stop reopening the wound.